Have you ever congratulated someone else's success and felt a strange, conflicting emotion? On the surface, you smiled, but beneath that, a bitter, resentful voice inside you whispers, "They don't deserve that. It must have been luck." That feeling of bitterness is what Nietzsche called ressentiment, and he made a terrifying discovery that this isn't a personal flaw. It's the psychological poison that has been silently engineered into society, and it is the hidden source of an entire system of morality. This poison didn't just fester, it became a creative, world-building force, forging an entirely new morality that completely flipped the world upside down. It took the values of the strong, the noble, the life-affirming, and branded them as evil. Then it sanctified the values of the powerless, the oppressed, the resentful, and called them good. Nietzsche saw this as one of history's greatest psychological revolutions, a coup carried out not by armies, but by the wounded soul of humanity itself. And here's the danger. That revolution still lives within you. The morality you take for granted, the very sense of right and wrong guiding your choices, may be nothing more than a cage built from bitterness, envy, and fear of life. This is not a historical curiosity. This is the hidden architecture of your own mind. We're about to journey into Nietzsche's most dangerous idea, a path to strip away inherited illusions and rediscover a morality born from strength, not weakness. This is not an invitation to cruelty, it is an invitation to freedom. To understand this great inversion, Nietzsche leads us to two origins from which all morality has sprung. The first is the master morality. This is the morality of the ancient noble, the warrior, the creator. This being does not ask for permission. They do not look to others for validation. They experience their own power, their own health, their own joyful exuberance, and from this overflowing sense of life, they spontaneously create their values. They look at themselves and their own actions and say, "This is good." Bad, for them, is merely an afterthought. It is a dismissive term for the weak, the cowardly, the pathetic, everything that is not like them. Their morality is a direct, radiant affirmation of life itself. The second is the slave morality. This morality is not born from strength, but from weakness and oppression. The slave, unable to defeat the master in the real world, performs a brilliant and insidious act of psychological warfare. Nietzsche called this the slave revolt in morality. The man of ressentiment cannot create his own values. His soul is reactive, not responsive. So he begins by looking outward. He looks at people who are successful and happy and becomes consumed with envy. And because he's too weak or powerless to actually harm them or get what they have, he spits out hateful words, calling and labeling them evil as a way to cope with his own feelings of inadequacy. And only after defining his enemy does he create his own good. He looks at himself, his own meekness, his own suffering, his own inability to take revenge, and he rebrands it. Weakness is now called merit. Subservience is now called obedience. Cowardice is now called patience. And the inability to take revenge is now called forgiveness. Pity, the ultimate virtue, becomes the tool to weaken the strong. Nietzsche saw this not as a genuine moral system, but as the most sophisticated act of revenge in human history. This is not just an ancient story. This is a living, breathing, psychological dynamic that operates within you. The modern mind is the primary heir to this slave revolt. The psychologist Leon Festinger developed the theory of social comparison, which states that we have an innate drive to evaluate ourselves in comparison to others. Nietzsche understood this drive centuries earlier, but he saw its dark side. When we feel inferior, this comparison gives birth to ressentiment. Think of the crab mentality. When one crab tries to climb out of a bucket, the others will pull it back down. This is the perfect metaphor for the morality of ressentiment. It is the voice that is quick to find the flaw in any great achievement. The voice that seeks to tear down the exceptional and celebrate the mediocre, because the exceptional is a painful reminder of one's own limitations. I call this the ethic of the leash. It is a moral system designed not to elevate, but to restrain. It praises the safe and the tame. It is the voice that tells you, don't be too ambitious. Don't stand out too much. Who do you think you are? It is the morality that praises being small, not because smallness is a conscious choice for a simple life, but because it is terrified of the risks and responsibilities of being great. The immediate and most critical objection is this: is Nietzsche just a champion of cruel, brutish tyrants? Is he saying that compassion and kindness are nothing but weaknesses to be despised? This is the interpretation that has been used to justify the most monstrous ideologies in history. But to read Nietzsche this way is to be profoundly and dangerously mistaken. He was not a social planner. He was a physician of the soul. Nietzsche did not admire the brutish warrior for his cruelty. He admired him for his psychological health. He admired the ability to create values from an internal locus of control, from a place of self-affirmation and a love of life. His great enemy was not compassion. His great enemy was reactivity. His goal was not for us to become literal masters who oppress others. His goal was for us to become the masters of ourselves. He wanted to awaken a new kind of nobility, what I call sovereign nobility. This is the state of a person who has so much inner richness, so much life force, that their kindness and generosity are not calculated acts of weakness, but a genuine overflow of their own strength. It is the kindness of the lion who can afford to be gentle because it has no fear. The path forward is not to become a cruel person. It is to become a courageous one. It requires undertaking a kind of moral alchemy within your own soul. The work is to examine every single one of your values and to ask one fearless question. Where does this value truly come from? When you praise humility, is it the humility of the great mountain that feels no need to announce its own height? Or is it the humility that bows its head because it is terrified to look the world in the eye? When you praise forgiveness, are you releasing a grudge from a position of strength as an act of personal liberation? Or are you simply demonstrating your inability to take revenge and calling that weakness a virtue? When you criticize the success or happiness of another, ask with unflinching honesty, is this a legitimate critique based on my own strong affirmative values? Or is it the bitter whisper of ressentiment? This is the difficult, painful, and essential work. Nietzsche would tell you that it is the act of burning away the values you have passively inherited, the values born of fear, of envy, and of reaction. You do this to discover what is left. What is left is the gold. The values that are born from your own deepest, most joyful, and most life-affirming self. You have now walked into the fiery forge of your own soul. You have held your most sacred beliefs up to the flames, and you have not flinched. You have faced the terrifying possibility that your goodness was a mask for your fear. And in that fire, you have been transformed. You are no longer a passive inheritor of a second-hand morality. You have become a creator of values, a blacksmith of your own soul. You have learned to distinguish the bitter, secret poison of resentment from the clean, powerful fire of your own noble spirit. Your kindness is no longer a weakness born of necessity. It is now a strength, born from a genuine overflow of your own power. Your humility is not a function of your fear. It is a function of your self-possession. In every choice, in every new way you treat yourself and the world, you are practicing this new nobility. Every time you celebrate the success of another without a trace of envy, you are free. Every time you choose a bold path out of love for your own potential, rather than a safe path out of fear of what others will think, you are free. You have stopped being a sheep in the herd, defined by the fences of a resentful morality. You have become the shepherd of your own magnificent becoming,